When the KKK tried to bring their hate into southern prisons, things got ugly, starting with this brutal clash involving Thomas Jordan Driver, a prison guard and proud KKK member who planned to murder a black inmate. Number 5. Warren Williams was a black inmate in Florida. He suffered from serious mental health issues, including anxiety and depression. In 2013, while serving time at the reception and medical center in Lake Butler, he got into a fight with a prison guard named Thomas Driver. During the struggle, Williams bit Driver. That bite set off a chain of events no one expected.
Well, even though America has evolved in the past 50 years from a civil rights standpoint, prisons, though, are a dangerous, violent place, and Florida's prisons continue to endure scandal concerning the treatment of...
Driver became paranoid. He worried about getting infected with HIV or hepatitis. Instead of handling things through official channels, he took a darker route. Along with 2 other men, David Moran, another corrections officer, and Charles Newcomb, a former officer who'd been fired for failing training, they began planning a murder. All 3 were members of the Ku Klux Klan. Their plan was cruel and deliberate. Once Williams got out of prison, they'd kidnap him and inject him with insulin. That way, it would look like a drug overdose or even a fishing accident. Newcomb, who was the leader of their Klan chapter, supplied syringes and a handgun he claimed had no fingerprints. But what the 3 men didn't know was that their Klan group had already been infiltrated by the FBI. One of the members was actually an undercover informant. He played along and posed as a hitman, gathering recordings of the men laying out their plan. To get solid evidence, the FBI even staged a fake crime scene. They photographed a fake corpse that looked like Williams and showed the pictures to the suspects.
Conspired to kill a black inmate because they believe the inmate, who was HIV infected, one of them after biting them. Ken Justice has the details.
And I'll tell you, we will not tolerate, nor will we ever.
It worked. Driver and Moran believed Williams was dead. They didn't hide their reactions either. One of them smiled. Driver even shook the informant's hand and thanked him. That was all the FBI needed. All 3 were arrested in 2015. In 2017, Driver took a plea deal and received 4 years in prison. Moran and Newcomb went to trial, were found guilty, and faced up to 30 years behind bars. After the arrests, the Florida Department of Corrections quickly fired Driver and Moran. They issued a public statement calling the case shocking and unacceptable. The department made it clear they had no tolerance for racism and said the men's actions went against everything the institution stood for. Number 4. George Mulvaney. George Mulvaney grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. He dropped out of high school and joined the Navy in 1977. While on leave a year later, he attended a Ku Klux Klan rally. That decision changed the course of his life.
Absolutely just
He didn't just become a member, he started a Klan group on board his Navy ship, the USS Concord. It wasn't a secret for long. The military found out, and in 1979, Mulvaney was discharged honorably, despite the seriousness of what he'd done. Back on land, he didn't slow down. In 1981, he got involved in a plan to overthrow the government of Dominica, a small Caribbean island. The mission was named Bayo of Pigs, but before it could get off the ground, federal agents stopped it. Mulvaney was arrested and later sentenced to 4 years in prison. He served about a year and a half. Prison turned out to be the turning point. Inside, Mulvaney found himself surrounded by people who looked nothing like the ones he used to march against. He spent his time with black inmates. He wrote letters for them, home to their families, mothers and girlfriends. He listened to their stories. It forced him to see the human side of people he'd once hated. Slowly, he began to question everything he believed in. When he got out, he didn't go back to the life he knew. He went to college instead. He earned a degree in environmental studies in 1987 and got a job at the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. Later, he co-founded a cleanup company, E3 Environmental. When the Deepwater Horizon oil spill hit in 2010, Mulvaney was part of the team that helped clean it up.
absolutely just a huge... When I walked out the front door of the prison and they're going to take me to the airport, the feeling of being free was unbelievable.
Years later, he wrote a book. He told the full story in it, from organizing a Klan unit to plotting a coup, surviving prison, and turning his life around. He didn't shy away from his past, but focused on what came after. His story, he said, wasn't about shame. It was about change. Number 3. Larry Webster. Larry Kevin Webster was a 42-year-old white man with visible Ku Klux Klan tattoos. He was known to law enforcement as a Klan member and had a criminal record. In January 1993, he was arrested in Galveston County, Texas, for kidnapping and robbery. While awaiting trial, he was held at the county jail. Despite his background, jail officials placed him in cells with black inmates. They documented his white supremacist ties but didn't separate him. This decision soon led to trouble. In November 1993, while sharing a cell with several black inmates, Webster was attacked. He was kicked in the face and suffered an elbow injury. He had to be taken to the emergency room for treatment. The beating raised questions about why someone with known racist affiliations was put in that situation in the first place. Webster sued the jail. He didn't hire a lawyer. He represented himself and claimed the officials had put him in danger. He argued that they knew, or at least should have known, what would happen. He said it wasn't just bad judgment, it was negligence. The case made it to federal court. On July 19, 2000, a jury in Houston agreed with Webster. They found that the jail staff failed their responsibility to keep him safe. The jury awarded him $55,000 in damages. Can you believe that? $55,000.
Treatment. Webster subsequently filed a lawsuit against Galveston County, arguing that jail officials had negligently placed him in a situation where his safety was compromised.
The verdict sparked debate. Some saw it as justice, regardless of their beliefs or crimes. Every inmate has a right to basic safety. Others felt uncomfortable that a known white supremacist had successfully sued for being attacked in jail. But the core issue wasn't about his beliefs, it was about the jail's duty of care. Correctional facilities are responsible for inmate placement, especially when there's a clear risk of violence. In Webster's case, jail records showed officials knew about his Klan ties, yet they ignored that information when making housing decisions. The jury concluded that the assault could have been prevented. However, Webster's win in court didn't erase his crimes or make him a victim in the broader sense, but it did make clear that even the worst people are still protected under the law. Number 2. Edgar Ray Killen. Edgar Ray Killen was a Baptist preacher from Mississippi and a known organizer for the Ku Klux Klan. He lived most of his life openly supporting white supremacy and segregation. In the 1960s, he was deeply involved in efforts to stop the civil rights movement.
In 2005, when a Neshoba County jury convicted him of 3 counts of manslaughter. That was 41 years after James Chaney, Michael Schwerner, and Andrew Goodman were killed by Klansmen and found in a dam in Noxubee County, or rather Neshoba County.
In 1964, 3 civil rights workers, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, were trying to register black voters in Mississippi. Killen helped plan their murders. The 3 men were arrested by local police, then released into the hands of the Klansmen, who beat and shot them before hiding their bodies in an earthen dam. The case shocked the nation, but remained unresolved for decades. It wasn't until 2005, over 40 years later, that Killen was finally held accountable. He was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to 60 years in prison. He was 80 years old at the time. In prison, Killen remained defiant. He called himself a political prisoner and never once apologized for the murders. Guards reported several incidents where he made racist comments or caused trouble. He once threw hot coffee at a female officer and had to be restrained with pepper spray. Another time, officers found tobacco stashed in the cushion of his wheelchair. Over the years, he received multiple write-ups for his behavior.
As to count 1, guilty of manslaughter.
Mr. Killen, do you have any comments?
It's hard to believe.
Between 2010 and 2011, Killen shared a cell with James Hart Stern, a black pastor. It was an unusual pairing, but the 2 men talked often. During that time, Killen wrote several letters, sharing his views on race. He also admitted to more crimes that he'd been charged with. In a surprising move, he gave Stern power of attorney. Stern later used that legal authority to shut down the Klan group Killen had once led. Killen died on January 11, 2018, inside the Mississippi State Penitentiary. He was 92 years old. His death brought little sympathy. For many, it closed a chapter on a case that had haunted the civil rights era for decades. Number 1. Thomas Tarrance. Thomas Tarrance grew up in Mobile, Alabama. As a young man in the 1960s, he joined one of the most violent branches of the Ku Klux Klan, the White Knights. He believed in segregation, white supremacy, and used violence to push those views. By his early 20s, he was already on the FBI's radar. In 1968, he helped plan a bombing at the home of a Jewish civil rights leader in Mississippi, but the plan didn't work out. The FBI had been tracking him. As he approached the house with explosives, law enforcement was waiting. A shootout broke out. He was shot multiple times and almost died at the scene. His partner, a woman named Kathy Ainsworth, was killed. Terrence survived and was sentenced to 30 years in prison for attempted murder and possession of explosives. He was sent to Parchman Farm, Mississippi State Penitentiary. At first, nothing changed. He still held on to the same racist views and even tried to escape. That landed him in solitary confinement. But in that isolation, something started to shift. With nothing to do, he began to read. He read history, philosophy, and then the Bible. Slowly, his views started to change.
Up in the deep South, Mobile, Alabama, in the 60s, came of age in the early 60s, and been raised in church, very regular, I would say, and a good Bible-believing church and all the rest. Baptized when I was 13, but not converted. Didn't know it, though. And when I was about 17, the desegregation began, and
over time, he dropped the hate, let go of the anger, and began writing letters, forming unlikely friendships with black inmates and Jewish people. What made his transformation even more shocking was how genuine it seemed. A Jewish lawyer who had once been against him became one of the people pushing for his early release. After 8 years, Terrence was granted parole. He didn't disappear. He went back to school, studied theology, and earned advanced degrees. He became a pastor. Later, he led a Christian organization focused on spiritual growth and racial healing. He went from planting bombs to promoting peace, from leading hate groups to preaching forgiveness. People who had once feared him now invited him to speak at schools and churches. Do you think religion is a big driver in leaving the KKK? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to see more videos just like this.